Madam President, dear colleagues, the murder of political activist Charlie Kirk, a man, a loving father, and a patriot, has shocked the world. We must strongly condemn political violence and the rhetoric that incites violence. Please join me in reflection and prayer in his honor, and I yield the remainder of my time for a moment of silence.
Mr. Weimers, we have discussed this, and you know that the President has denied the request for a minute of silence.
Shockwaves in the European Parliament as a bid to honor slain U.S. conservative influencer Charlie Kirk with a minute of silence was flatly rejected. The initiative came from right-wing MEP Charlie Weimers, who wanted the tribute to symbolize that our right to freedom of speech cannot be extinguished. But Parliament President Roberta Metsola stood firm, saying minutes of silence are only held at the opening of plenary sessions, which had already passed earlier in the week. Kirk, 31, was shot dead while speaking at Utah Valley University, shocking the U.S. and sparking condolences from President Donald Trump. His death became an international flashpoint, but in Brussels, procedural rules held sway. Weimers was allowed to speak briefly before the voting session. As he tried to yield his remaining time for a silent tribute, Vice President Katerina Barley interrupted, triggering chaos in the chamber. Right-wing and far-right MEPs banged desks and shouted in protest, highlighting the tension between political symbolism and parliamentary procedure. A parliament spokesperson confirmed, the decision to hold a minute of silence is solely the president's prerogative, and all requests on this matter were denied.
Madam President, dear colleagues, the murder of political activist Charlie Kirk, a man, a loving father, and a patriot, has shocked the world. We must strongly condemn political violence and the rhetoric that incites violence. Please join me in reflection and prayer in his honor, and I yield the remainder of my time for a moment of silence.
Mr. Weimers, we have discussed this, and you know that the President has denied the request for a minute of silence. Therefore, we will proceed. We now move on to the report by Mr. Stefano Bonaccini. The President has denied the minute of silence. Report by Mr. Stefano Bonaccini on cooperation between enforcement authorities regarding unfair trading practices in the agricultural and food supply chain. Vote on entering into interinstitutional negotiations. Who is in favor? Who is against? Who abstains? Adopted. The committee can therefore immediately begin interinstitutional negotiations. Thank you very much. Joint resolution. Dear colleagues, we can continue. Dear colleagues, I am happy to explain it again. The decision of whether to hold a minute of silence is a prerogative of the President. There have been several requests on this matter, and all applicants have been informed that there will be no minute of silence.
Charlie Kirk was shot dead during a question and answer session at Utah Valley University. The incident occurred on September 10th in Orem, Utah, during the first stop of Kirk's American comeback tour with Turning Point USA.
I was 4 people in front of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of my greatest heroes, and I looked up to him a lot, role model. He was a role model of mine. And the second interviewer came up and started talking about mass shootings and whatnot. And she first asked how many shootings were caused by trans people, and he said way too many. And then she asked how many shootings were by other people, and that's when he was shot.
You know, you think it's something that happens somewhere else, but this was very close to home, especially, yeah. I admire Charlie Kirk for his ability to speak with people, and he was very, he wasn't so confrontational, you know, as maybe some people say. He worked with people, he talked to people, he was very opinionated, obviously. But I just liked his interviews, that he would have with students and talk to them. But I think he represented the best of what's in our country in regards to freedom of speech, being able to speak and speak your mind, those types of things.
I was 15 feet away, and it was really hard to witness. He had just finished talking about his first subject was talking about, you know, the Mormon faith, and somebody had come up that converted from atheism to the Mormon faith. He talked about how much he loves us, and you know, it feels like they just have different opinions, and that's okay, but he loves our Mormon faith and he loves everybody, and it was just a lot of love and joy and kindness, you know. And then the next person came up, and it almost felt like a cue to me, because they talked about transgender gun violence, and then as the guy said shooting or shooters or something like that, you just hear the gunshot, and I'm sorry, you just see his neck just like open up, and there's just like so much blood that just came out. It was horrible, and all I felt was like everybody bringing me down to the ground, and I was sorry.
Take your time.
All I hear is screaming, and I see people running, and I'm like, it's not safe to run, it's not safe to get up, it's not. And all I'm saying is, please God, please God, please God, because I don't want to die, I don't want anybody else to die, and I think I just saw a guy die, you know. And we ended up getting up, and about 20-30 seconds later, and running into the building, and they took all the witnesses that were pretty close, me and about 12 other people, and we sat there for about an hour, and we're all just crying and seeing people posting the videos on social media. It was horrifying. It was horrible. I looked to see if there was a shooter. I didn't see anything. All I could see was Charlie was taken right away, and we were just still on the ground freaking out, not knowing what to do.
What was that like?
I mean, I don't think Charlie is necessarily contentious. I think he's very good at saying his points and being very blatant if you're interrupting him. There was only maybe, I would say, 60 people on this balcony that couldn't even see Charlie. They were like on a balcony above like his tent that were all saying, you know, chanting F Charlie Kirk, things like that, and had signs saying some pretty upsetting things about him. That was it. Everybody else was drowning out the sound and saying how grateful we are that he took the time to see us and talk to us. We had questions. We wanted to talk to him, and instead somebody selfish didn't care.
Yeah, and to be clear,
if I'm going to be honest, I had friends coming in asking if they needed tickets, and I said they didn't even check for my ticket, which I did get a ticket. They did not pat us down. I feel like I maybe saw 3 or 4 police officers in this whole environment of hundreds of people, I would guess, which I thought was a little odd, but at the same time I thought, well, you know, it's Utah, which is probably an ignorant thought to think, but there was not much security precautions taken. There was none.
But did it sound like the shot came from behind?
Yes. It sounded exactly from behind us, and that's why I was so worried, and I looked, but I couldn't find anything. But you could also see, obviously, from the way that the blood just... It definitely was from behind. So... or in front of him, I would say, you know, but...
So I was watching the event, and I saw Charlie Kirk start talking and stuff, and all of a sudden in a second later I heard a gunshot, and everybody started like running in like a mob through the doors, and like it was scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got trampled in the crowd and like just like pushed through the doors, just like everyone started running.
Right.
I mean, I just saw everyone sitting there and then some booing of what he was saying, and then I saw officers up there just watching from above, and like it was just all crazy.